Check 1 2. Check. Here we go. Check 1 2.
You're not on the screen, Dean.
I am now. Nice to meet everybody. Good to be here. My name is Dean. The voice you heard there is Lochlin Cross, and you can also hear him on the intro. Lochlin Cross, of course, 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton. Morning show host of the Locker Room. Hell of a show today. I was on your show like this week, actually. We were talking about the Leafs and Oilers. Leafs lose last night 4-1. Connor Bedard's in town.
It's over.
She walks out of here. Yeah, I know the season's done. Forget it.
It's over.
Call
off the parade.
Anyway, nice to see you, Mr. Radio Star in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. As always, good to have you. We've got a lot of stuff to get to. We're going to talk a little bit about the Israeli.
Before we get to any of the heavy stuff, I'd like to.
You can turn your microphone on. You got to turn your microphone on first because we don't have
it.
Not
on? My mic is on.
No, you got to select it. I can't hear you. You're on the wrong microphone. I thought we checked this before you started. Did we not check this stuff before? It was Caryma we were going to check because Caryma's standing by because we're going to get to a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to get to the Israel-Hamas war, which is going on right now. Some terrible stuff, but how it affects Canada because we've stayed away from this subject is fucking so sad. It's like one of those stories that I just can't wrap my head around, and I'm sick of war and everything. Yeah, you're better now. There you go. Gotcha.
That's weird.
Anyway, Caryma covered all the stuff downtown. She actually covered a real protest for the first time in like 3 years, which is really nice. So we're going to get to that. And she's got some insight because she is Indian Palestinian. So her father actually came from Palestine. Was kind of excommunicated from the entire area for a long story. We'll get to some of that in just a bit as well. But fascinating story. And she was there. Yeah.
I didn't know about the excommunication. I knew about the heritage, but
yeah, there's a story there, and I'm butchering it before we start, but she's awesome, and she wears it on her sleeve, and she also has got some incredible understanding about the region, the history, and also kind of how this is manifesting itself in Canada, because we've seen these marches all over Canada, right? We see the sadness, and we see the nightmare that's going on over there, and watching people pop off and go, turn that area of the world into a fucking parking lot. I'm like, fuck, shut up. So we're going to talk about why people should shut up about that stuff. We're also going to have a little bit of chat about Pierre Poilievre. I got him trending today. It was my pleasure. Nobody likes Pierre Poilievre. Had a conversation with an insider. Did you see the video that he did with the Apple? You see that? You see the Apple video? What a douche. I thought of you like right away. I'm like, Lochlin probably wants to go and pound on this guy. He's that duplicitous of an asshole. So anyway, we're going to talk about that
my big issue with it is like, as much as I think we need a replacement for the current government, I just wish there was something that was palatable on some level.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Right? Like I'd like to be able to walk into the gymnasium in a year and a half.
Yeah.
And go, I want that guy. That's the guy that needs to run our country.
That's our hope.
Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get that option. I think a lot of people are going to be going in there and doing what they always do. And we'll be doing what we usually do locally, federally, provincially, where we are actually just getting rid of somebody because we're tired of them. We're not putting somebody in there.
We do, dude. We get so exhausted by people. We're like, Trudeau's been in there for 8-9 years. It'll be 10 years by the time the next election come around.
He's done.
Yeah,
we're all done. The virtue signaling.
I'm so tired of all of it. It's crazy. Like, against my better judgment, we're going to talk about Canadian politics today because I fucking hate all of it, and I just hate bad people more than I hate bad politicians. And Pierre Poilievre is a terrible fucking person.
Raging dick.
Just a massive asshole. Anyway, we're talking about that later on today. And we're going to talk about Don Jr. and his dad gag order on Donald Trump, huh? I like that.
I'm going to get
Don Jr. lost his.
You know what I know about the gag order? That's probably going to work.
No, he's already motored past it today. They published like the judge's address. It's craziness. Anyway, I feel good and I look good today, Locke. So do you. You look great. You look really nice.
Are you ill? Like, have you got something going on?
No.
Like, I know that's probably a little aggressive. I mean, you and I we don't keep in touch as much as we did in the past, right? We're both very busy.
We talk all the time, but we are busy. Yeah.
We're busy.
Why do you ask me?
We used to talk almost daily. I'm just wondering if you've got something going on. Like, I don't know, like a tapeworm or
I don't
know,
scurvy? Why would you ask that question?
Are you getting enough vitamin C? Because you've lost a significant amount of weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would suggest
intentionally.
You're doing it on purpose.
Yeah. It's funny because I went for like a physical a couple months ago. About a month ago. Guy's like, so, because I got a new doctor. My doctor retired, and he's like, so, like, how you feeling? I go, really good. You did my weight. I was under 200 for the first time in like 20 years. I'm like, yeah, it's fucking crazy.
You're as tall as I am.
Yeah. And so he's like,
yeah, you are
197 or something like that. No, I don't. And I don't have a tapeworm. No, I don't.
You got some kind of, have you been in Africa lately?
No,
Were you swimming in the Amazon?
I don't have AIDS.
Something
I'm not doing
climbed,
coke.
something
I'm not doing coke. I'm not doing
something climbed up your urethra.
Yeah, I was in like an African river and something climbed in my pee hole and now I can't eat. Is that what you're saying? No, I just decided I was fucking tired of being gross. It was weird because it was like, it started in like May last year, not even May, June, April, March. March, I was 240, 250, and it's like a 6'3", and it's harder to get to the bathroom in the morning. And I'm like, fuck, I feel sick. I mean, there's one night I had like 8 ice cream sandwiches before I went to bed.
That's all the weed.
Yeah, it's totally the weed. But I was like, I got to fucking figure this out. And so self-discipline being what it is and me having none of it as a rule, I'm like, let's see if I can.
Very well-timed drink from the beer.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, just hammers this Bud Light in the middle of the soliloquy.
Self-discipline.
So self-discipline, self-awareness being two things that are very important to me in the life philosophy that I follow, which is Stoicism, and I'm a big fan of cognitive behavioral therapy. So I did a bunch of reading. I'm like, if I can just not eat after 6 o'clock, eat something healthy at 11, maybe sewer a couple of snacks in there, like healthy snacks, and have a healthy dinner before 6, go to bed at like 9 o'clock. So I had this routine. Like I didn't have a routine. I would just do my shit all the time. I would get up, have like 18 coffees with a whole bunch of creamer in it, bunch of sugar, and then I'd have like pancakes for breakfast, just like an absolute animal. I lived like an animal. During the pandemic, I remember there was one night, everybody's got a food night during the pandemic, right? Where you're like, I feel like having 30,000 calories today. I gained 8 pounds in 2 days over the pandemic once. 8 fucking pounds. You know how hard that is to do with no booze? No booze. Like there's one night I had 25,000 calories over the course of the day. And I'm like, why not? Locked in my house, lost the will to live, don't care anymore.
I have been eating like an asshole lately.
I know.
I don't know what it is.
Right? I know. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. And you feel this shame too. Like, I don't know if you're like me where you'll have, like, there's one night I had like 4 bowls of Captain Crunch before I went to bed at like 10 o'clock. I was like,
that's not me. I don't feel shame.
Disgusting. So what I did was decided to put some things in place. You want me to take you through my weight loss routine? It's not
well, and you know what's interesting about the interesting thing about weight loss is I've known a lot of people that have gone through and had like success, no success, had relative success, had short-term success, then fell off. The one thing that I hear a lot about from guys that, because I've never once in my life
ask your doctor about Ozempic.
Have I ever gone on a diet? I swear to God, I've never stopped eating exactly the way I eat. I've been eating and drinking the same way. The one thing I did do is I quit smoking and I did put on weight, and then I got into an exercise regime after that.
Is that when you started doing yoga because you broke your asshole or something too, right? At that time,
my tailbone when I was 41. But the one thing that I have heard is that it's like 80% food. Like everyone I talk to is all like food. It's food,
dude. It is all food. So I mix in.
Even
I walk and I go to the gym, but when I go to the gym, I'm like, it's all I can do to do a few sets, get on the elliptical, and then hit the fucking sauna. That's like my reward at the end of it. I go sit in a sauna, and if there's someone in the sauna, I'm not doing a sauna. I'll just go home all sweaty, have a shower, and get on with my day.
Really?
And be pissed off. Yeah, that's how I am. I'm weird.
It's a little weird,
but it's all food. Like for everybody out there that's sitting around going, how do I lose this weight? Like I was like, and then hearing about Ozempic, and I talked to my dad. He's like, no, you don't need Ozempic. Just fucking exercise and eat less and eat better food. So, you go through life and you meet certain people. My significant other's like, I'm going to teach you how to eat better. And I'm like, okay. So she gets me a book and I start cooking and I start with, there was a point where I was losing like a fucking half a pound or a pound a day, just eating healthy food and not eating after 6 o'clock. Like it was absolutely unbelievable. So in like 3 months, I lost 50 pounds. and now I'm on 200. So I'm down to 60, maybe 60 total, and it's just.
I was going to say you've
don't eat before 11. What's that?
Amount of weight. You've lost a significant amount of weight in the last
about 60 pounds. Yeah, in about 5-6 months, and it's just food.
That's
a little
insane.
Bit of exercise. Yeah, it's pretty good, dude. I had like 40 pairs of jeans. You know me. I'm jeans t-shirt. I just got rid of 30 pairs of jeans and like 100 t-shirts because my shirts don't fit anymore. I look like I'm swimming in them. Yeah. And then I go to the doctor and I'm like, can you check out my blood, make sure everything's good? He's like, yeah, fuck, my blood pressure's great. I've got no health issues to speak of at all. I'm going for my colonoscopy on the 30th. Really excited to get that thing shoved up my arsehole just to kind of give me that, hey, you're good or you're bad or let's deal with it. Yeah, men's health, dude. Like we don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about like trying to do a little bit better, trying to get a little healthier. And it's funny now that I'm of a certain weight and I feel good and I look better and I go out and I'm like less afraid to do everything. And I think there are a lot of people out there that do, not to get all fucking serious about my weight loss journey or it's not even weight loss. Like I didn't try to lose weight. I just wanted to eat healthier and feel better. And this is kind of the result. Also, you can see my wiener now, which is great.
The one thing I will say about your weight loss and this is, awesome? Listen, I don't want to judge you.
Star? Does your wife like me more now because I'm way hotter? Is that the problem? Deb's been checking me out online.
No.
Okay,
that didn't come up. I will say this about your weight loss, and this is listen. I don't want you to be offended by this. Okay,
I'm unoffendable.
Well, we'll see.
Not at all.
The size of your head is aggressive now, and I don't know what you can do if there's a haircut or a hat you can wear. You look like a human bobblehead.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in my friend Caryma Sa'd. Caryma rules on Twitter. Hi, Caryma. How are you? Nice to see you.
I didn't know what to expect coming out of Lochlin's mouth, and it surpassed my expectations. So thank you.
Of me having a massive.
He looks like a human bobblehead, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I have a rock bobblehead. Hold on.
Yeah. Does it look like me?
It's got skinny shoulders and a huge head. See, you just showed that's an old Dean Blundell Edge
bobblehead.
102 bobblehead.
Yeah, dude, it's funny because like now everybody's asking me for like it's weird because everybody's asking me for weight loss advice or like life advice, and I'm like, I don't know, dude, eat less. And I've become like an asshole about it too. Like I watched this Botox commercial on television yesterday, and I thought like a better against actually putting a tweet out about it. There's this, for lack of a better term, and listen, as a former fat dude, I can say fat dude. There's this fat dude in a fucking Botox commercial. He's like, I feel great and I look great. And I'm like, dude, you just drilled $1,500 into your forehead. Go fucking download Noom. Like, dude, seriously, why are you putting your money there? I don't know why you're putting your money there. Anyway, I didn't tweet about it. I was talking to a friend of mine.
It's the new diversity laws. You got to have a fat guy in all your commercials.
It doesn't count that you didn't tweet about it if you're saying it now.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to give him some points, Caryma.
Totally
put that out there, but okay.
I heard a great line from someone that summed up weight loss. I can't remember her name. It's going to drive me crazy. She's really funny. And she's an actress. She goes, I just stopped eating like I had 7 assholes. And I don't know why that was so poignant for me, but it makes sense. If you had 7 assholes, you could just
eat all the time, and you could pick the asshole you'd use, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of assholes, and speaking of cocaine, because I'm not doing coke, this is all natural weight loss. Did you see the Donald Trump Jr. cocaine video today? Did you guys see that?
There's another one. Yeah.
He's so fucked. I love this stuff. I don't know what it is. Like every time this comes out, I feel like it's like the shame of it all is I don't have a radio show. I'm like, this would play really well on the radio because the audio is incredible. The guy's slurring his dick off in this thing. Anyway, this is Don Jr. in defense of his father. And it's like he does this. This is it's 7 seconds long. He can't even speak, Caryma. Watch this.
The high interest rates combating the inflation has made homeownership almost impossible for many Americans.
Oh dear.
He looks thin.
The
Maybe
high
I should start
interest
doing
rates
blow.
combating the inflation has made home ownership almost impossible for many Americans.
And he's got all the ticks. I mean, it's so
he's got
obvious,
the
man.
loose jaw. He's got like the inability to speak, the fucking crazy hands. Like, I've never done coke. I've been around people that have done coke. This is absolutely cocaine, and it's a lot.
The high interest rates combating the inflation has made home ownership almost impossible for many Americans.
He needs a friend. You know what? The thing about that too, right? Like when you get into that lifestyle, no one normal's hanging out with you because they can't do it. They can't keep up, right? Because he goes all day and all night. And when he starts to crash a bit, he'll do another bump and get going again. So you wear out your friends and you wear out the people around you that might actually give you decent advice. So that's what's happened. The other week, it was a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, tops, where someone was tweeting from his account and he said his account got hacked. Remember that? That all that was his coke buddies.
All
when
coke.
When he went to the shitter, let's fuck with his phone.
The high interest rates combating the inflation has made home ownership almost impossible for many Americans.
Like, no one's around that guy to tell him, dude, you're too coked to do micro content right now. You cannot do micro content when you're this coked out. I make a lot of micro content. Thank God I don't drink or do drugs. But if I did, I can tell you this. I would never, ever pick up my camera at the end of the night and go, this is a fucking great idea. Coked out of my mind. I'm going to put out a thing about inflation and home ownership.
That's the thing about cocaine.
The high interest rates combating the inflation has made home ownership almost impossible for many Americans.
He saw that.
Your perception of skill, right?
He saw that afterwards, Caryma, and went, hey, that's great. Put that out. I nailed it.
Solid gold.
It makes you confident.
Well, and you make a ton of content, Caryma, right? And you are a fan of cannabis, or at least were, and you're an advocate for cannabis. Do you ever smoke a massive bowl and then go, it's time to make micro content for the masses? I don't.
All the time.
Oh, okay.
But that's different. I have never done cocaine, but all the
did not go the way I thought it would.
Me neither. I love this chick.
In fact, no one, the baseline is unknown. The baseline is unknown.
Well, let's get into it. Let's just fucking get into it.
Caryma,
we don't know.
Let's get into it. Can I go ahead?
I've been around Caryma. Sorry, when she's high as a kite and she doesn't change. She's the same. Right, because when we met, she came in and it smelt like she had rolled around in it for a week and sat down at the table and was completely lucid.
Yeah, her cameraman loves the shit too, and I fucking love that about both of them. And it was funny because it was like a year and a half ago. You came up to Markham, I believe. You were doing some stuff in Markham, and you're like, "Hey, you want to get together?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." So I came and joined you and your cameraman. We went and sat in these Adirondack chairs at this area that you were kind of working and staying in. And Caryma, just this little tiny Caryma, just this nice little lawyer, advocate, gonzo journalist, pulls out a joint the size of my arm. And she's like, my cameraman rolled it. I'm like, let's fucking get into it. So we did. And you're right. She was exactly the same. You didn't change at all.
So many people. I have so many friends like that that can smoke like that, and it doesn't impact them.
Question for you, Caryma. Let's get into this. When you say you like to smoke a bowl and do micro content, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about just a joint? Will you get into a bowl? And do you, if you said your baseline is, and I know a lot of people that operate like this, God bless you if you can, just not for me, but is your baseline morning joint, maybe something in the afternoon, a little pick-me-up, and then at night, you might get all your content together. You'll sit down in front of your computer. You'll make it a big legend, and then you'll grind up a bowl and
that makes me all sound so much more organized than I actually am. When in fact it's, hey, I have an idea for a video right now. I'm going to shoot it. And, half the time I've eaten an edible and half the time it's just me. In fact, I did come off of a fairly long tolerance break. So
how long?
Over a month.
What's a tolerance break?
Well, your tolerance tends to go up when you smoke on the daily, correct, Caryma?
Yes, or just regular frequent use. Yes.
Yeah.
So a tolerance break is you curb your consumption. In my case, I cut it out completely.
For a month?
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. Do it.
I cut out smoking completely. I still partook in a couple of edibles here and there. But basically, it sort of resets a little bit so that you can save money.
Health schmouth.
This is budgeting.
Hey, do you think Don Jr. needs a reset?
Budgeting. I'm going to take a break from the week.
Break. Just eat some edibles. You think Don Jr. needs a reset?
The high interest rates combating the inflation has made home ownership almost impossible for many Americans.
I think home ownership might be even more possible if he took a break.
I think so too. His dad, by the way, coked out of his mind too. Like, it's got to be cocaine. He was doing a speech in Iowa yesterday.
You think Trump is?
Yeah, well, let's play a clip. I got to play you this clip.
Trump's on something else. He's not. I don't think he's a blowhound.
No, dude, this is coke. It's got to be cocaine. Yeah. Here.
I mean, just lasting another year is almost impossible to think with the weaponized elections and all the stuff they did.
Trump.
Today, a judge put on a gag order. I'll be the only politician in history that runs with a gag order where I'm not allowed to criticize people. Can you imagine this? Do you believe this? I'm not allowed to criticize people. So we'll see. We'll appeal it, and we'll see. But it's so unconstitutional.
That's different. That's
Slurry McSlurs a lot. Dude, he's been slurring through so many of his speeches. It's been awesome to watch. It's got to be cocaine.
I don't think that's coke.
He's a career coke addict, dude. I know people that know him and know that he loves. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't hang around as many cokeheads as Dean, I don't think. So I would defer to his opinion. But, what sold me there was when he said appeal and he got like all grinny. That was unusual.
Appeal. Yeah, for me it was that, and when he slurred 43 times, that was just another one. But can we, as Lochlin pointed out, can we point out all the chyrons around him to sell books to kids?
We have so much support; it's incredible.
Look at that! Look at that! He's got the free Trump book, and then he's got this, and you got the kids Trump book. I mean, he's coked out. I mean, whoever's running that graphic also probably needs some cocaine too, just to kind of.
I think he's misunderstanding his audience with the promotion of books. I feel like a bobblehead would have been a good choice. In fact, I thought that's what it was at the top corner there, but it's not.
Nope, not at all. It's a kid's book. Because who doesn't want to? Yeah, who doesn't want to read it? Who doesn't want to read a Trump kids book to their kid? Like, that'd be incredible.
Maybe he is hitting his audience.
Yeah, probably. Caryma, you went to, and I want to pivot a little bit of fun off the top. We're 23 minutes into this thing. We talk weight loss, cocaine, Trump, Don Jr., some fun. We talked weed, baselines, that kind of stuff. I've really tried to stay away from a couple of stories. One of them is the Israeli-Hamas war, and the war being conducted between Israel and in Palestine, in Gaza, the West Bank. We all saw what happened with the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel. I mean, some of the visuals that are coming out of there today, because the full-scale invasion is set to begin, or it has begun. I don't want to get to any of that stuff. What I want to talk about with you is what you covered this last weekend. What you covered is, and Toronto is no different than any other city around the world. We have a strong contingent of people from the Middle East who have moved to Canada. We're highly welcoming to immigrants from around the world, have been for a long time. It feels like that. It feels like that's the hallmark of who we are. I know Caryma's shaking her head.
Comparatively speaking to other countries, Caryma, are we
multicultural? We're multicultural people.
Yeah, I'll grant us we're more multicultural. I don't know about welcoming, but I'll grant multicultural.
Welcoming might be the wrong word, and you need a really, really good education.
Yeah, that's the other thing. But we want
you to be in computer sciences.
Yeah, or you got to drive a cab or operate a convenience store. That's the way we work here. Or you got to open up a dry cleaning shop. Anyway, I don't want to get into the stereotypes. Well, I do because it's fun. Anyway, I won't. But what you covered this last weekend was bizarre to me, and we've seen so many people erupt in cities around the world: London, New York, Philly, Toronto, all over the world. Support for Palestine, support for Israel. We've seen the mud in the middle, people telling us what we should be believing, whose side we should be taking. And I thought you did an incredible job, but take me through sort of, what you experienced. And by the way, congratulations for attending a real protest. I consider these real protests. I consider following convites around not real protests anymore. However, take me through kind of what you experienced, because I found it fascinating. I really tried to remain quiet. We'll get to why, because my opinion does not matter, but the right opinion here does. So what did you encounter, and take me through some of that if you can.
Yeah. So far, since the, I guess, most recent outbreak of violence, I've attended 3 events in 3 cities. So I was at Nathan Phillips Square in Toronto, and then Celebration Square in Mississauga, and City Hall in Hamilton. And my initial takeaway from this is that the gatherings were fairly localized. So it seemed to be local community members. I was not seeing much repetition of individuals across the 3 cities. There were some protesters who showed up at all 3. And there were some marshals, parade marshals who showed up at all 3 as well. But that is a major difference, I would say, from the convoy events where, there is a recurring character base. Mind you, this is an entirely new group of people, so it's possible that, I missed some of that. But the reason I think that's significant is, it's drawing out individuals from communities. And the way that these protests have been portrayed in media, and the way that we've seen reactions in France, for example, where there were violent crackdowns. Thankfully, that wasn't the case anywhere I attended. But I do think that something lost in people's interpretation is that there was nothing celebratory about any of these gatherings, and it wasn't the
ones you went to weren't celebratory. The ones that you covered, I'm going to get to the one at Celebration Square. I'm going to play a real quick clip here. This is yours, Celebration Square. You got the Palestinian flag, and this is in support of the people of Palestine, correct?
Yes, and there's a conflation between people of Palestine and Hamas, which is very unhelpful and I think misleading. These were expressions of grief, of rage, of resistance, but no one was celebrating any of
terrorist attack.
At least
no one there was doing that.
Okay. No one I spoke with.
Okay, because that is the narrative. Like, what happens is when this all took place, it was a rush to media the shit out of this thing on behalf of special interests, different groups. I saw people give a lot away on Twitter and social media for the first 24 hours of this thing. And you and I had a very pointed conversation, Caryma, where I told you, listen, and I wrote a piece on this. Why are people that have no idea about who Hamas is, about the innocent civilians in Palestine,
about the politics in the Middle East, why are you talking about it?
Why won't they shut the fuck up? I mean, you covered this. Did you see celebration of the murder of innocent Israelis? Did you see any of that?
No, I didn't. And, even chants that are innocuous were portrayed as being violent. One that comes to mind is "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." And I've seen multiple accounts interpret that as meaning, well, they want to push all of the Israelis into the sea. They want to take over, as opposed to taking the face value meaning, which is, geographically, the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. In between that expanse, Palestinians should be able to live in freedom and dignity, right? And that, to me, is a very self-evident interpretation. But even things like that would get twisted. And I'll reiterate that no one was celebrating death, not in any of the speeches that I heard or chants that were raised or people I spoke with. I'm aware that there are clips circulating on social media, where there are, we'll call them outliers, because that I think that's an accurate term.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that I remember thinking at the very beginning of this is that we're gonna get dragged into an issue that we have in a lot of political forums and a lot of contentious, divisive issues where people have a hard time separating things, right? In the world that we live in now, we don't live in the gray. We live in this extreme version of everything. And I'm like, we're in trouble here, especially with this conflict, with how people,
like we as Canadians, you mean?
No, as people,
Globally?
as people, we can't separate these issues and break them down and have a conversation about things. And I remember saying to my wife, this is gonna get ugly, because it's going to be so hard to separate these organizations, these religions, the politics, the history of this, and to dissect it individually.
And the propaganda.
Like
the educational propaganda that we've been given. Like I can tell you this, that I grew up thinking that Israel was the chosen holy land for Christians and born again Christians and evangelicals. My mom actually went there and she got dunked, like baptized, after she became a Christian. And so I grew up understanding that. And then I also grew up with, the church understanding, or the propaganda in the church of, the Muslim devils that were in Gaza and the West Bank, there to make life hell for all Israelis who just wanted to live, peacefully.
That's a narrative that's not just in Canada.
I know.
That's a worldwide narrative.
I know. And then you've got the wrinkle of Hamas, and I want to talk to you about that too, Caryma, because this kind of did bring out some folks. It brought out some people, and one of the things that I want to show is a video of yours that went viral. And where apparently we have Taliban friendly assholes in Canada, because they showed up to this rally, and the people that were supporting the innocent civilians in Palestine at this protest. Was this in Toronto? Was it in
Mississauga, actually?
Mississauga, Celebration Square, same place.
Mm-hmm.
That apparently, now take me through the video before we play it, because this was a moment that has since gone viral, and millions and millions of people have consumed Caryma's video. So what are we going to watch here?
So we're going to see a truck, an expensive truck, I'm told, with Taliban flags hanging out, and a couple of protesters who approached the truck and said, essentially, this doesn't represent us. This has no place here. Why you brought these flags? This isn't our purpose in being here today. You're also going to see in the video a self-deputized marshal of sorts try to block my cameraman from getting this exchange and footage, which in my view does a disservice to the protesters, because it's important to be able to debunk the inevitable narrative of Palestinians support the Taliban, which quite evidently was not the case. And at the end of the video, we see a woman actually run in front of the truck to prevent it from moving until they take down their flags. And my cameraman speaks briefly with the gentleman who doesn't have much to say by way of explanation. And I think that's significant as well, because it suggests that there's not a ton of conviction behind that, and whether it was to cause a bit of chaos or is more sinister, because in Florida there are Taliban flags that showed up, and the narrative was Palestinians support Taliban, which could very well have been the case here, but for this footage.
Yeah, let's watch it together. This is, again, like tens of millions of people have seen this clip. Caryma and her cameraman captured this. This has gone worldwide. And it's actually a very kind of an interesting moment. Let's watch it.
You are not in Afghanistan. You are not in Afghanistan. You should understand this.
Brother,
yes.
We're here for the support.
Support. So create the Palestinian flag.
What you're doing is harmful for Palestinians. You're not supported.
Yeah. Yes.
You do not represent us.
Yeah. You put the Palestinian flag.
Represent us.
Yeah.
Take it off.
Yo, don't touch my shit.
No, yeah. You don't put it. No.
Your umbrella just hit me. This is not drag story time, ma'am.
Can I just say something? What are you doing?
What's going on here?
Nothing. Can you please walk away?
Okay. Yes. Put the Palestinian flag. That's not the time. Yes. Yeah. No, please take it out. Yeah. You're not in Afghanistan. Yeah.
Any comment for everybody on Twitter? What's going on?
Bro, people are just emotional. That's all I can say, you know what I mean?
You guys are weird.
I don't know what to say, man.
Take it, remove it. C'est génial, je veux pas être associé avec ces connards.
Oh, tu parles français?
Oui.
Tu viens de où?
Je suis palestinienne.
Merci.
Yeah, I mean, that is the people.
They're trying to muddy the waters.
Totally. And you don't know if it's false flag. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if those guys are really Taliban and they just hate Canada and they're Sharia law assholes like we have come to know and expect from extremists who like to fly that shit flag. But that is a moment where the people who have family back in Palestine, people who know that there are innocent civilians in that area of the world, are not terrorists, are not extremists, and do not want to be associated with those people. And Caryma, that kind of leans into the real issue here, as far as I'm concerned, that there are so many uneducated people out there that are popping off at the mouth and trying to tell everybody really what the problem is and who the real issue is, right? And what gets left behind is that this is a religious extremist war that has been going on for millennia. Like, it's been going on for thousands of years, and it's really picked up since 1948, and it's really picked up since 1987. And Israel had a lot to do with the creation of Hamas. So, like, if we're going to sit here and have a conversation about who's to blame, why can't we pivot that conversation into let's educate each other as to what is happening around the world and who we support? Because I don't support any fascist right-leaning government. I do not support terror organizations like Hamas. I do not support religious extremism and authoritarianism and terror against innocent civilians, which is what we're seeing, right? And you cannot conflate a terror attack against the people of Israel with the war that is being delivered to the people in that region of the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that the religious element of it confuses people and throws them off, and is accepted as either the driving or primary force behind this conflict. And I don't fully accept that. I obviously the state of Israel is, there are theocratic elements to that. There's an ethno-state element to that. So we can't discount religion.
You explain ethno-state. Sorry, just dumb guy question here quickly, because I don't want to get lost here.
Ethno-state means that, deriving from the word ethnicity, that there's a shared common ethnicity, and that is a basis for citizenship. So, that's in a...
Is that not tied to religion, though, Caryma?
In the case of Judaism, there's overlap between the two. But, the emphasis being on lineage and ancestry, which is difficult to sustain in a diverse, globalized world, right? And I think it's also important and gets lost in conversation that Palestinians are religiously diverse, majority Muslim, but there are Christian Palestinians, there are Jewish Palestinians, and, across the world as part of the diaspora who have been displaced and also on site. And so the religious angle of it, we can't discount it. And Hamas, in the way that it conducts itself, clearly there's a strong religious bent. Dean's correct that the state of Israel was, part of the creation and sustaining of that organization with the intent of destabilizing Palestinian politics. So it's a situation not so different from the CIA and its involvement in creating the Taliban, where now this entity, it's not behaving in the ways that, in the narrow scope that was expected. So like that there's layers to the conflict. Ultimately, it's about land and power, and racism factors in as well. And that, I think, if we look at the UN resolutions, and so we don't have to actually, reach to formulate brand new opinions. What is portrayed as very complex and controversial, aspects of that are straightforward if we accept international law. And at the root of this is occupation. And I was having a conversation with a friend today, and even if it was possible to surgically remove every Hamas supporter, that wouldn't resolve the issue. So, people are getting caught up in what's kind of a red herring. And, the fundamental issue is one of occupation and sharing space and expanding undefined borders, even in the face of international law.
Yeah.
I saw an interesting interview based on the conversation you were talking about, based on this red herring theory. And the guy that was being interviewed was a resident, I think, of West Bank. And I don't want to get any information wrong here, just because it's such a contentious issue. But he kept saying that he kept repeating over and over again that the world is being misled. The world's being misled. You're being misled. You're being misled. And I don't think I put two and two together until what you just said there. He wasn't articulating what he was saying because he knew he had 2 minutes and he knew he was going to get pulled off the air. And it wasn't a contentious interview. It wasn't a struggle. Like, I've been doing this a long time. You can tell when one person is fighting to say something and the other person is trying to direct the interview a certain way. it wasn't that. It was like he kept wanting to make the point that what's being reported and how this war is being presented to the public is wrong, and we have it wrong, and there's more to it. But he was unable in the 2 minutes
tell you what it was,
just to explain it or to articulate it.
Well, we're seeing, and it's interesting because I'm seeing it today, and I will bring this up. The big contentious issue in the last 2 hours is that a hospital in northern Gaza was bombed, 500 people were killed. Now, the war on social media about this is what you're talking about. It leans into what it is that we're being told, right? And what we're told is that was a Hamas rocket that misfired. Half of their missiles misfire. And then we're also being told that was IDF, meaning Israeli Defense Forces, that bombed that hospital after telling everybody in the north to get out and to evacuate that hospital. So there's video now that is being put out by each side, Hamas and Israel. And they're saying, the other guy did it. The other guy did it. The other guy did it. Not, this is a tragedy. Not, oh my God, right? Not, this is the saddest shit in the world. Like the videos of kids, people lying outside the hospital in pieces. And I'm like, oh, so we're just gonna Twitterfy this? Like we're just gonna use this to tell one side to tell a story, another side to tell a story. And it made me physically ill, Caryma, to the point where I couldn't even look at it anymore. I couldn't, and that's our job. Our job is to dig into these things, figure it out, lay blame for clicks. And I looked at those bodies, those little bodies that were lying on the ground after, as I was just perusing what was going on, because this is the big story out of Gaza today, or Gaza, depending on how you say it. And it really is a sick fucking world we live in.
Yeah.
It makes me sad. Makes me sad that we have authoritarian governments and religious extremists that are killing people, killing innocent people. In this case, people in a hospital.
And trying to justify it by creating...
Try to hang it on the other guy.
Yeah.
I blows my mind. Caryma, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You're going to say
the propaganda is out of control. AI doesn't help matters. An algorithm that allows pay to play to thrive doesn't help matters. And people are largely unaware of their own ignorance and feel qualified or even incentivized to share opinions where they don't have the basis to formulate an informed opinion. And that's not to say that you have to be, of X descent to speak on this issue, but we should expect, a base level of understanding. And just as everyone fancied themselves epidemiologists and then constitutional law experts and then experts on the Ukraine and now this.
Ivermectin, right? Don't forget about the ivermectin experts. Those guys were cool.
I'm still taking it. Great on a Triscuit.
Yeah, me too.
but so we're not aware of our own limitations. Social media creates this landscape where there's a lot of passive consumption happening as well, and people aren't thoughtful about looking at multiple sources, and it becomes kind of this reality TV that you just get to participate in by sharing your 2 cents, and that can be harmful, and we see the effects of it being harmful even beyond the Middle East. But we have, for example, a little boy who was stabbed 26 times, right?
Chicago. Yeah.
Right. And that was with a landlord with whom he, by all reports, had like a grandfatherly relationship. So this media, whether it's legacy media or independent media or just online propaganda, it is infiltrating people's brains, and we are in such a weird juncture with even hate discourse, and considering what is what is hateful, right? There are statements that are being made by Israeli top politicians that are openly calling for ethnic cleansing and war crimes. And, you know, that's hateful, that's problematic, that needs to be addressed. And
as an answer to a hateful terrorist war crime attack.
Yeah.
And, you know, that ping pong can go back and forth, but as I say,
lack of separation.
Occupation is at the root. And we don't hear a lot about is how peaceful acts of resistance have been violently suppressed. So, for example, Gazans marching to the wall, you know, I forget how many hundreds were shot dead by snipers, and how many, you know, journalists and lawyers and professionals are subject to arbitrary detention, the general humiliation of living in occupied territories, right? The checkpoints, the lack of autonomy, being unable to access, for example, medical care because you can't leave. There's a reason Gaza is referred to as the world's largest open air prison, because effectively that's what it is. And I think it's hard, perhaps, for North Americans to identify with that, and to see them. And there's, you know, I mentioned racism, like Orientalism plays a part in that, and kind of who's perceived as being human and who isn't. And that's reflected in our own politician statements as well, or what's left unsaid, or the fact that Doug Ford, who is literally facing criminal investigation for mishandling or corruption involving the Greenbelt.
It's an international criminal investigation, by the way, by one of the most serious parts of the RCMP. So let's not gloss over that.
So he's dealing with that.
I was shocked. I was shocked that he's a criminal.
Calling for, you know, an MPP to have to resign or be censured for expressing a fairly timid, you know.
She expressed support for the Palestinian people. She didn't express support for genocide. Yeah,
but she wasn't saying anything controversial. She started with talking about the UN.
Sarah Jama is her name, by the way.
Yeah. So like the pearl clutching, the inability to distinguish between hypothetical or imaginary harm and actual harm, it's just everyone is warped, and it is so disturbing to see. And I feel that I see it with a great deal of clarity, and the mask has slipped for a lot of people.
But I think the bigger issue in this is somewhere along the line, we lost our ability at empathy and to express empathy. And I'm talking about all sides here. I saw
it's the weaponization of that sadness for political points.
Yeah,
it doesn't include empathy. Like, and that's and you're touching on something which is where I want to go next, right? Which is, you know, and Caryma kind of touched on it. You got a bunch of dumb people. You got politicians. You've got people that have, you know, and other people that have been subject to the propaganda that we all have over our lifetime about what's going on in that region, that are taking sides without actually having any information about the side that they're taking, right? And you have politicians here that are in trouble with the fucking law. Like in Doug Ford's case, he and his government crafted a bill to give themselves immunity from going to fucking jail over this thing, and the RCMP is up their ass. And so what is the best distraction for that? Is to call a woman an anti-Semite. By the way, the woman's in a fucking wheelchair, and she's a paraplegic, and all she did was voice support for the innocent people of Palestine. And it's fascinating to me because people are using some of the most incredible visual suffering I have ever seen in my life. All
of it's awful.
For clickbait and for points. Like, this is not something you clickbait. You can clickbait. Like, I clickbaited the shit out of Pierre Poilievre today. We got Nobody Likes Pierre Poilievre trending in like 45 minutes. It's #1 trend in Canada right now, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. Maybe we won't even have time to get to it, but that's clickbait. That's fun. pimping the death of children, innocent civilians for political points, for online points, curating favor on social media, you're just a terrible human. Like, that's what people don't understand, is that, I've watched people give away their shame over this whole thing, Caryma, because they're just terrible fucking people who don't care about the suffering that we're seeing. They don't care to be accurate. Why would they care about anything else? They're using it for their own specific political or influential purposes. And it makes me sick.
There's a narcissism that drives it, right? And that narcissism is probably fueled by social media, and culturally we're in a weird space where individualism has been taken to illogical extremes. And I think that's a component of it. Another point to mention on this is the polarization that, we've been dealing with throughout the pandemic, that predates the pandemic, is we're now seeing fractures within groups that were never truly cohesive, but now they are at each other's throats, even within the same faction, because they take different positions on this. And the Canadian Anti-Hate Network is a great example of this, because they've been utterly silent about everything, about increasing hate towards Muslims, increasing hate towards Jewish people, the conflict overall. And I suspect that's because of a gap between.
You also kneecapped them pretty good this year too, right? Like, that's.
Sorry?
That might be a bit of you.
You also kneecapped them a little bit this year too. Let's just call a spade a spade. Like, they're a little scared right now.
But there's a gap between its leadership and its foot soldiers. And so right now there's silence, but like this, and I say this not lightly, but the logical end game of overreach with hate discourse was always going to come back to this fundamental conflict of Israel-Palestine. And, is it anti-Semitic to be anti-Zionist? And, that's where we're at. We have people talking about banning the Palestinian flag, or banning gatherings in support of Palestine. That is just such a major incursion into civil liberties that would leave us all worse off.
Lock.
When this happened on October 7th, I remember specifically, because our job is to present information. And now I have a fun job. I have the luxury of going into work every day with the sole purpose of trying to take people's minds off of the heavier shit in the world and hopefully put a smile on their face. And I think we do a pretty decent job of that. But at the same time, I think there are times when you're not forced, but obligated to comment on things that are happening around the world, even if you don't have all the tools and the information to do so. And I'm at a loss with this conflict, like many. So I was shocked at how quickly people grabbed aside and how quickly the discussion went one way or the other. Yeah,
dude, it's the same. It's the same fucking moron. Like, and listen, I've said this before. And by the way, you can go to the Crier shop and buy one of the shirts. Stupid people equal the new pandemic. It's stupid people.
Yeah,
we live in a time where stupid people are ruining it for everybody. I know it's on all sides,
and it's all issues.
But like, I watched Christians and Muslims march against children's rights a couple of weeks ago. Right. Now I'm watching them fight over this whole thing. And, those are not smart people. The people that get involved in these things, that decide that they're going to voice their opinion without any information, or just drive some kind of result on behalf of a community that they might be involved in, or a religion that they subscribe to, right? It's just what we see all the time. It is systemic. It is a pandemic. And these people have to be stupid to believe what they believe. And I truly do believe that. And you people who sit there and say to me, or tell me that I've got to hate on for religion. Absolutely, I do.
No, I do.
Absolutely. It is what we're seeing carrying on in the Middle East. For one thing or another, it might be ethno-state related, might be authoritarian related, but religion is the underpinning of this whole thing. Hamas wants to murder and hunt down as many Israelis and Jews as they can. That is their stated goal. That is what they want, no matter where they are around the world. And Iran funds them. Gaza and Hamas, that whole area is a cat's paw into Israel, and it's been going on for a fucking long time. So that I understand, and I had to educate myself as to what that was and what Hamas is to that area. I had to learn about the Muslim Brotherhood. I had to go and read about when this whole thing started. I had to read about 1948. I had to understand. I had to talk to people, and you can't come out and make a definitive statement unless you have that information. You know, we've been yamming about this whole thing, talking about it just from an intellectual or academic perspective. Caryma's family is from Palestine. Your father used to live here. He left Palestine, if I'm not mistaken, with your mom. Is that not correct? Like, you have a deep understanding of that religion or that area.
So my dad is Palestinian, and he was forced out of the area fairly young, and grew up like in a refugee camp, and then later elsewhere in Jordan. My mom's Indian, and so they met in India and came to Canada. And by virtue of being sort of this mix, as many children of mixed cultural backgrounds will tell you, you have a connection to both sides. One side may be stronger than the other. Sometimes, neither side, or you're disconnected across the board. So it makes for complicated dynamics.
And it makes for complicated dynamics, but you understand the dynamics better than most people, right?
There's a personal connection, which also I would say that can be blinding in some cases, right? Where it's hard to look past your own family's experience to understand other families' experiences. I don't really see it that way. And, I think that a lot of people feel unseen and unheard right now. And, there's various degrees of objective truth to that. But the only real pathway forward that doesn't lead to another 2 decades of destruction, like we saw post 9/11, is to insist on recognizing one another's humanity. And there's all sorts of reasons why that's discouraged. But, it shouldn't be the case. A civilian life is a civilian life. And, we can contextualize without legitimizing. And I think that's the task that we face. And it's an uphill battle for all the reasons we've talked about, but essential to try.
So they're saying there is hostages. There's anywhere between 150 and 250 that Hamas grabbed from Israel, took back to Gaza. And I don't know what the numbers are. I don't even know if they have an exact count of the number of countries that are impacted, right? There's Americans, there's Canadians, there's Germans, there's people from all over the world that are, that have families that have no idea what's happening to their loved ones. And I've seen some very difficult interviews with family members begging the world. And I was like, this is strategic, because I saw them doing it more than a couple of times. I saw more than a couple of families. So they must have gotten together on some level and said, if you get in the press, talk to the world. Don't talk to the US. Don't talk to Israel. Don't talk to Palestine. Don't ask the world for help. And I thought it was interesting because I think they're onto something. I think they realize the necessity for humanity. I think they realize that these individual parties that are involved in this conflict are beyond the capacity for reason. You're not going to sit down any of these groups individually and go, you know what, everybody, we should just all get along and maybe release this, or we should do this. It's not going to happen. They need the collective will of the human race to figure this out. And I can't,
you know what, though, dude?
I can't imagine the stress those families are going through.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting because it seems like they're doing it on purpose. It seems like they had a strategic thought, and we're at that point. We're at that point where we have to somehow get people on board here to realize the lack of humanity of this conflict, regardless of who you side with, depending on your background, your religion, your politics. This is going to seem like a really odd pivot right now, but I'm going to do it anyway. I was so impressed with Pete Davidson's opening for Saturday Night Live, and I can't stand that little dick. I think he's unfunny. I think
you don't like him because every 3 months he's dating like a cougar.
Makes no sense.
That's why you don't like him. Yeah, I know.
Anyway, so you know my problem with the imbalance in the world.
Yeah,
that's
I know
one of them.
I know.
Okay, so but his opening back to was so empathetic and so poignant. Like I almost cried watching.
I did.
Because
I did because I looked at it differently. Like I know, Caryma, you've seen it. I wrote a piece based on what Pete Davidson did. It was one of the most emotional moments I've ever seen, one of the most authentic moments I've ever seen. Pete Davidson lost his dad at the age of 7 in the 9/11 terror attack. So he is uniquely qualified to speak to.
But had the courage to say, doesn't matter what side you are on. People are dying.
What matters are the innocent people who are left behind by the destruction of terror. And terror works both ways. We're seeing it now to get delivered to innocent people in Gaza. We're seeing it. We saw it when the terrorist attack happened to the innocent civilians in Israel. Hang gliding sons of bitches coming in there, shooting concert goers, killing kids, killing families. Like, I mean, dude, it is all terror related. It is terror. However you get there, it doesn't matter. But when Pete said that, I was like, dude, and that's why I have a hard time trying to digest any of this stuff, because the most innocent people are the ones that are being paraded around in videos and pictures, like pictures of headless children being paraded around the streets. I'm at a loss, like even just getting into this conversation here with you guys. I'm at a loss because I expected better from us at some point. I expected, and you can't when there are groups of people who are willing to commit genocide in a suicide attack in the name of God or Allah. I mean, you're not going to compete with that. There is no humanity there because they're not interested in this earth. They're not interested in lives. They're interested in the afterlife. So it's a long fucking way from like, hey, we got to get more people on side. You can't get more people on side when they're doing this for Muhammad, or they're doing this for Jesus, or they're doing this for their Yahweh or their creator, and they're doing this like the religious extremism and the tenor of the extremism have we seen. Like 9/11 was a terrorist attack based on the fact that, Osama bin Laden thought the West were a bunch of fucking infidels and we're going to do this for Allah. I mean, like, let's fucking call a spade here. You're not going to win against religious extremism ever. That kind of religious extremism. Yeah, like, the conviction of someone who sticks a pipe bomb up their ass and walks into a market in Afghanistan.
So then the question is what is it that allows this to flourish versus other forms of,
You're dead right, Caryma. You're dead right.
The selfishness of the people at the top of that religious extremist food chain.
Why are we not having the conversation?
That's not all of it. Because
what is it?
Like I said, if we look at Gaza specifically and forms of peaceful resistance that have been violently suppressed, that that creates a vacuum, right? That creates a vacuum. So how do we plug that without feeding the worst impulses? And what happens if others benefit from feeding those worst impulses? And that's their motivation to do so. So like, those are the hard questions that, we're not really equipped to tackle right here, right now. But that's what should be on our minds. Who benefits?
Who benefits? Great question. The leaders of Hamas who are camped out in Qatar in nice hotel rooms, they benefit. Iran benefits. You've got a certain hardline group of politicians in Israel that benefit. I mean,
Israel was on the brink of civil war prior to this all happening, right? And nothing galvanizes sort of national solidarity like conflict.
There's something there too, because I don't know if you saw any of the intelligence reports that went into this, where everybody's like, how do you, Iron Dome, walls, barbed wire, how does this happen? You've been prepared for this for like 50 years. And then their news came out that Egypt and Saudi Arabia had informed Israel that there might be an imminent attack. The United States informed Israel there might be an imminent attack. And they're like, don't worry about it. So there's something there in my mind. I mean, I can't speak to it because I'm not a geopolitical animal like a lot of other people, and I haven't looked into it, and I'm not qualified to do so. But yeah, I mean, there's something there too. I can't figure it out. And it's not for me to figure out, and I'm sure a lot of this stuff will come out. But we're all being lied to all the time.
Cannon fodder, right? Yeah. And powerful people, mostly men, using others as cannon fodder, and that's disgusting.
Well, and then there's the theory, and this is madness, that this was perpetuated on a global front in order to distract Western civilization
from Ukraine,
and potentially China taking over Taiwan.
Well, and there's also the Saudi-Israeli peace deal, which Iran didn't want. So I'm sure that they funneled that into there because Iran would have been kind of put on the back burner. Saudi Arabia is going to work with there's so much that goes into this. You could literally go ahead and pull it.
You sound crazy when you start saying this stuff out loud, though, right? Like, we make fun of these people that make these kind of conjectures, but you can't help in this situation, the timing of it. You can't help but wonder if there is more things at play. And then what ends up happening is we stop having the conversations that we need to have about humanity, about empathy, about.
Well, people are scared. Like, you know how many people I saw get canceled over the past week are like, yay, Israel, go in and wipe those guys out. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yay, Palestine. Yeah. It's like, I've watched people give away their shame. I've watched people get canceled, like this guy named Anthony Koch, who went all in on just some of the most horrific stuff, calling women of color vile C words and stuff like that. Go Israel, decimate the area, all that other stuff. He's literally been pulled out of the Conservative Party, pulled off of every panel that he actually goes on television and he talks about these things. And he's one of hundreds of people that I watched literally get canceled. Caryma, you're going to say something before I interrupted. What were you going to say?
No, I think I might have just been facially reacting to something you said.
Probably me. Yeah, probably. Can I ask you a question from what you saw there? And Locke and I kind of briefly talked about this. Do you worry about this manifesting itself violently in Canada?
Yeah, obviously this is going to manifest violently. So that's bad. And, my appeal to the ether is to not allow that to happen. But again, it's very hard in the war on perception to even know what's real and what isn't. But certain things are objectively real. And it's ironic, I suppose, that this comes at the tail end of the Veltman trial. The man who allegedly ran over that Muslim family in London. So we see real manifestations of hate, and we see cops out in full force still in Toronto, at least where I am. I don't want this to be the new normal of heavy securitization and fearing our neighbors. So what I personally am trying to do is reach out within my network and just check in on people. And if everyone is doing that, then, we should all be covered, hopefully.
Caryma Sa'd, ladies and gentlemen, at Caryma Rules is where you can find her on Twitter, sadvocacy.com. If you would like to follow her and get a real glimpse into all the things this Swiss Army knife of awesomeness does. She's a lawyer. She's a landlord-tenant lawyer. She's also a journalist, and you can follow her. And you can actually consume her cartoons as well, which have pissed a lot of people off. Big fan of your cartoons. But really appreciate, not only the work you did last weekend, appreciate your common sense. Appreciate your ability to kind of help us understand parts of this. And like you, I'm worried. And what I saw this last weekend was the stuff that, and this is my bias coming out, was the stuff that I thought was just always over there and I never had to worry about, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I saw this weekend here in cities across this country. We have to worry about it. We do.
We have
and
to
I
worry
really
about more than that. We have to worry about the possibility of this leading to a global conflict.
Yeah. Dude, and Jordan today is like, no refugees, no Hamas. Fuck you guys. Egypt did the same thing. You've got countries that are feeding into this: Russia, China, North Korea. I mean, it's on. Like,
we're in World War III. If there was any doubt up to this point, which there shouldn't, but we're not. We are in World War III. We'll look back on this in decades, and I don't know what our Franz Ferdinand moment was, but we're in World War III.
By the way, one of the worst alternative rock bands of all time, Franz Ferdinand.
They were awful.
One of the worst. Every time they'd come on the radio, I'd be like, "What are you talking about?
What are we doing?
Playing this song?"
I got an idea. Take it away.
Me home.
By the way, Caryma, when we do get together again, which I hope is sooner than later, I decided on this podcast based on the conversation before we got into the heavy shit that you and I need to smoke a bowl together. Now, I will warn you, someone will need to tuck me in because it will end my evening. But I have plans to step up to the plate.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that. I'd like to be there for you too. It's you need to bring all your faculties if you're going to smoke one of Caryma's arm's length joints that's wider than it is longer. It looks like a baseball bat. That's all I wanted to point out.
That's awesome.
People ask, how do you handle? That's how
I smoke big joints. Thanks, Caryma. Great to see you.
Take care.
All right, Caryma Sa'd, ladies and gentlemen, sadvocacy.com. Follow her, Caryma Rules on Twitter. Yeah, I like having conversations with her about this because you can kind of get some different texture. Obviously, her being where she is. But dude, I'm gonna tell you this: like the rallies that I saw this last weekend, and the vitriol that I saw play out across this country alone. Like, I mean, take the suffering, and we've obviously held that and billboarded the suffering over there as the most important thing, and by no way are we hard done by here in Canada. But what I saw was that religious extremism, that anger, that hatred manifests itself in the streets of Canada for the first time on that scale. And I thought to myself, outside of World War III, which you were kind enough to point out, we're basically in, Caryma said, we're basically in, outside of worrying about all the other foreign interests that are going to feed into that area for geopolitical, land, oil reasons, real estate reasons, like all that stuff. I'm worried that we're going to see something really fucking significant in this country in terms of terror attacks, in terms of this holy war being brought to this country. That worries me after what I saw.
If you get a chance to go back and watch this again, I there was a moment where Caryma, where she is quite expressive at times without saying a lot. And she gets expressive when you bring up the religious angle. And I think the underlying message there from her is that there's more at play here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's easy to say, religion's at fault. Religion did this. The extremist views of this particular sect, that particular sect, they're colliding here. It is very easy. And at times I think it's the out that we all take when we are picking a side rather than digesting this information and trying to fit and trying to approach it from humanity, trying to approach it from empathy.
Totally.
And you have to be careful with conflicts like this because I don't think Caryma is wrong. I think
that it's not just religious based. it's land based.
There's way more at play here.
There's foreign policy issues here. Other countries feeding into that area.
There's way more at play.
But hold it, and I'm not saying that there isn't more at play other than religious extremism.
I'm not taking away.
What the fuck are we seeing in every single fucking video? Allahu Akbar.
But I think that's the
God
way
is good. We're the God's chosen people.
I think that's the out. That's the easy out on this. I think that's the problem when you're dealing with conflicts like this, when you're dealing with both sides doing horrific things, is that as a Western culture, specifically, because I'm embedded in that, we tend to take the easy road out on that and go, you know what? It's religion. See, if we didn't have religion, we'd be better off. This crazies. What are they doing? Like what? But I think her points in that interview. Go back and watch her reaction whenever you brought up religion, and she also dived into it a bit, and it's a warning, and it's an important warning from her that there is way more to this. And again, I know 100%. It's steeped in religion,
100%. But I'm telling you that there is an igniter here, and that igniter is used as an excuse, and that sits behind the idea that these two competing Abrahamic faiths, which is what they are,
yes,
who have hated each other for 2,000 fucking years, wanted to kill each other for 2,000 fucking years, that these Abrahamic faiths are going at it again. Again and again and again. You have different interests feeding into that as well. Yes.
The people that live that buy into that adopt those philosophies that they're the pawns in this.
100%.
So they're the ones that end up being the victims, right? And that's the worst part about this. The hardest part to watch is that at the end of the day, we're going to watch them slaughter each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I don't think Caryma's wrong. I think we need to settle in. This could be a 10-year war, and I think we're lucky if it just stays in the Middle East. Honestly, I think we'd be.
Yeah, I was watching Jim Sciutto the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, it's gonna spill over." Yeah,
this one's spilling over.
We watched it spill over in terms of emotion across North America, across the world. Some of the visuals we've seen, the protest, millions of people, competing ideologies, competing interests, competing familial shit. I mean, we've seen it. We're watching it again. It's going to spill over. We're going to see a very serious fucking conflict. I don't know how long it'll be. I don't know who's going to be involved. But man, oh man, you got a couple pretty serious U.S. warships in the Gulf right now. And you've got other countries feeding assets into the Gulf right now, like Canada, Greece, Italy, U.S., and you have U.S. citizens that are being held hostage right now. And you have the world's biggest superpowers going up against the other biggest superpowers in the world who are fighting each other in a proxy war in Ukraine at the same time. I mean,
it's crazy convenient timing.
Yeah.
Right, like for somebody to take advantage of something, geopolitically. I think, again, I hate having those conversations because you sound like a lunatic when you start to dip your toe into the conspiracy waters.
You're not. These are all the conversations and the narratives that are happening around it, and you and I are actually having a decent conversation about it. And it's not the only extremist bullshit that we have to be aware of. I don't know if you saw the video of the people in that live stream this last weekend from Alberta Strong and Proud, or Alberta Proud and Free.
No, I missed all this.
Did you see this?
No, I missed it.
Yeah, I mean, like, we can sit here and we can talk about religious extremism. Yeah, you don't, but you do. You don't, but you do. Alberta Proud, or Alberta Strong and Free and Proud. It's this group of degenerates who, in a live stream,
I'm aware of them.
Yeah, in a live stream, sat and talked about how Trudeau was only a few hours away. And one of the people in this live stream would be open to going and killing the MF if someone would pay for her gas money or cover her shift. And I'm not kidding. Let's watch this.
Guess who was in L'Orange last weekend?
Who?
Fuckface was.
That doesn't surprise me.
I was literally hours away from him. And if I fucking could get off work and go kill the motherfucker. I fucking would. He was fucking hours away.
Give it about 5 seconds and then you take a note.
Hey,
that
I got
that comment.
some gas money. I got some gas money. I'll give you gas money.
Hey, if someone's willing to pay my hourly wage so I can skip work and go and do that, fuck, I would. I'd do us all a favor.
Did he punch you? Did he put hands on you?
No.
Did he put hands on you?
Yes.
Trudeau? No.
Yes, he did.
Put hands on my children. That's the difference.
Well, she knows where I'm
children.
going.
That's the difference.
Like, I can't do anything unless he put hands on you.
And
why can't we be more like the States where like our prime minister's into hunting or something and we could go for like a turkey shoot?
What is that?
Just a bunch of drunk assholes talking about assassinating Canada's prime minister, making plans to do it. That's it. That's all. That in a live stream.
We're in trouble.
Stupid people are the new fucking pandemic, dude.
We're in trouble.
And it gets even better. It gets even better. The lady who called him an MF who said, hey, if someone covers my shift at the Circle K, by the way, love drunk Darren going, I got gas money. I got it. Too drunk to drive. Don't let Darren drive you to the thing. Just stay away from Darren. But the woman in that clip who said that she's got no problem if someone covers her shift at the gas station, going and finding the Prime Minister of Canada to take him out on behalf of all of them, kill him, assassinate him. She gets a visit from the police at her work the next day. And it was from us posting the video. But she gets a visit from the police the next day. This is her recapping what happened, saying, it's cool, though, because my boss was okay with it. Still doubles down, thinks it's a great idea to plan the assassination of a sitting prime minister in Canada.
Oh, are we talking about this? Oh, thank God I was going to bring this up. The fact that they're trying to get the cops after me, they're trying to get the local RCMP here in Saskatoon to get after my ass. The cops actually showed up at my job about this. And they took me away into the office. They brought my boss into this, and he goes, this is bullshit. I know she goes on political lives. She shows me what these people talk about, and they're having civil debates about the Prime Minister. Like, we're sitting here talking like what you fuckers do on your lives, and you point out that your points are right.
She's so smart. Did you listen to that? She's not done. She's not done. It's almost done. There's only like 35 seconds left. If she thinks it was a civical conversation. I think she means civil. Threatening to murder the prime minister is not a civil conversation. Threatening to murder anybody is not a civical conversation.
Is there anybody? Do you have people from Alberta and Saskatchewan on? I want you to pay attention to the accents. Yeah. I want to have a conversation with you tomorrow about Alberta accents on the show, because we had a long conversation today on the locker room about it, and because you make fun of the Alberta accent, and
there's a whole Reddit thread on Alberta accents Alberta, and she has the Alberta accent, but she's from Saskatchewan. I think it's a Western Canada accent. That's what I think.
Anyway. I'm hearing the because when people mimic it, that's not it.
I wonder if it's just the lack of education in how she talks. Anyway, let her finish. 35 seconds left. This is her response to being visited by the RCMP. She thinks it's totally okay.
We're both doing the same thing. That whole repostings are from a screen recording, and it was mentioned in this live. It was for AlbertaStrongAndFreeb is his username. His live was screen recorded, and that's where they caught me saying, like, if someone paid my wage at work, I would go off work and kill fucking Justin Trudeau. But I feel like I'm speaking on a good majority of Canadians when I say that.
You should.
She said it again.
What a stupid fucking idiot.
His live was screen recorded, and that's where they caught me saying, like, if someone paid my wage at work, I would go off work and kill fucking Justin Trudeau. But I feel like I'm speaking on a good majority of Canadians when I say that.
You should.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go, buddy. There you go. There you go.
That's unbelievable.
Those are the same people from Save the Children. Those are the same people who went to the convoy. Those are the same people who hate this country, planning to assassinate. And given an opportunity after a visit from the RCMP, she gets on a call and she's like, I think I speak for the people. I got to be honest with you. I'm holy fuck, you're the stupidest person in the country. It's awesome to watch, dude.
She's got the Berta accent. Also, listen to Tamara Litch. She's got the Berta accent. I know the one.
She's from Berta.
When you do the accents, when you're making fun of it, you sound like Diener from Food Bar. That's too much. And I was saying on the show tomorrow, with no disrespect, I can't pinpoint it. I can't articulate what it is. I can't copy. I can't mimic it. But when I got here, I noticed it right away when I started to live after a couple of years, and I hear it all the time, and I hear it in golf cart girls. Like when you're on the golf course, and someone
Dude, I think
rides
it's
up
an
and
education thing. You know what? I really do believe that the accent you're talking about are people that can't phonetically pronounce things because they're golf cart girls and people that work part-time jobs in La Ronge, Saskatchewan. Like, I'm being serious. Like, you can laugh about the accent all you want, and it's like R's and E's are more pronounced or less pronounced, and sort of like car. I'm gonna go get in my car. I like how do you like my haircut? Like, I get that part of it, but it's legitimately an education thing. Like, you just heard that woman. Yeah, it totally is, dude. These are people that live in the sticks who's like, school? I don't feel like going anymore. But you're in the 8th grade, honey. And she's like, nah, I'm done. And her dad's like, you know what? I could use some help milking the cows too. So let's just go out there and milk some cows. She's like, great. So she grew up like an idiot. So she sounds like an idiot, which is why the majority of people out there, rural country. And listen, I love Alberta, Edmonton, Calgary, beautiful place. I'd moved to Alberta.
There is a Berta accent.
Education. It's a geographic issue.
It's not.
Education
it's
related.
not. No. I've met some smart people that have a bit of a twang.
I don't think you have.
I have. I can't think of their names right now, but
I don't think you have, dude.
I have.
Save the Polyev stuff for tomorrow. We'll be back. It has been a day. We've dealt with some serious shit. I know Lochlin's got to get out of here. He's got beer to drink. I've got a meeting to get to at like 6:30, so I'm going to split, but really appreciate you hanging out today and talking about some serious shit, some fun shit. And thank you for telling me at the start of the podcast about how great I look. Makes me feel great. Thank you very much.
You do look good.
Really good.
You do look like a human bobblehead, but
very good looking. Does it bother you that I've gotten better looking since I've known you? Thinner, better looking, smarter. Like, does it bother you that I've evolved to this point? Like, when you look at me, do you go, how do I keep up?
I don't let that stuff bother me. I'm dealing with my own shit.
Great to see you, buddy.
Very rarely does it come up. Dean's better looking than me. Like, that is not something that keeps me up at night.
How can I keep up with how excellent he looks and how excellent he's doing? Do you ever think that? You're like, my God.
Yes. Hey, listen.
Yeah,
I want to leave everybody with this, okay? I've done this before. I'm doing it again. 3-step plan on saving the planet. And you will not convince me that this will not work.
Mm-hmm.
1, figure out who you are. 2, get comfortable with that person. 3, stop fucking worrying about what everybody else is doing. Do those 3 things.
Well said. Well said. Here's another. Can I add a 4th? Do you mind if I add a 4th?
This is my thing. You don't get to add a 4th.
I just want to jump in. I just want to add like a bonus thing.
I'll take it under advisement.
Stop worrying about other people in terms of what you think they're thinking about you, because they're not. No one's thinking about you.
It's too wordy.
Like when you
too wordy. I tried to.
You go out, dude. I said this to someone the other day. No. I said this to someone the other day. They're like, I feel so self-conscious all the time. I'm like, that's because correct me if I'm wrong. But when you go out in public and you're talking to people, you're thinking about what they think of you.
Now, that's covered in 1.
And he's like, no.
Worry about figure out who you are and then get comfortable with that person. I've already taken care of.
Don't worry about other people and what they think about you in that moment. Just be mindful of yourself. I guess, you covered it in 1 and 3. Never mind. Sorry.
2. More 2. More 2. Yeah.
Is it a 2?
Yes.
All right.
I'm planning on writing a book about this whole thing, so to stop shitting on it.
You've been writing a book for a year. I think you got 4 pages.
It's been a slog.
Great to see you.
All right.
Thanks, buddy. Lochlin Cross, 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton. This is where you can find him every single weekday morning. 957cruisefm.ca. He's the host of the morning show, best rock and roll radio morning show in the country. Make sure you listen every single weekday morning. You can find him online. Also, the Locker Room podcast, which you can get anywhere you get your fine podcasts, and you can get them on YouTube as well. Thanks to everybody for being here. Thanks to Caryma. Don't forget to find her on Twitter, sadvocacy.com. That's where you can find her online. You can also get her on Twitter at Caryma Rules. Really appreciate her hopping in today as well. And thank you for listening. Thanks for spending some time with us. Don't forget, we're brought to you by our friends at Cantork. Cantork, makers and assemblers and manufacturers of the finest torque wrenches in the world. What is a torque wrench? Do you need a bolting solution? You got a loosener, fastener solution? You got a bolt that you can't figure out? Are you in heavy industry, machinery, nuclear, steel, railroad, forestry? Doesn't matter. If you have a bolting solution, you need a torque wrench, and they don't make it, they'll make it for you. They do it for industry around the world, heavy industry around the world, out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. The little engine that could. They do everything in this beautiful country, so go and support them. If you have a hydraulic torque wrench need, all you need to do is go to cantork.com, hit the little tab to connect with Colin, and he'll get back to you right away, and he will solve your problem. There's solutions people at cantork.com. Check them out today. And as well, Ed's Fine Imports and his Gitch. We wear Gitch, so should you. Boxer briefs, luxury boxer briefs, pouch at the front, super breathable, very movable, made for every level of performance. You will love these underwear. And you can only get them at edsfineimports.com. And he wants to give you a free pair when you use promo code GITCH3, GITCH, and then the number 3. That is your promo code. Go there today and check it out. Order yourself a pair of underwear. In fact, 3, get the 4th for free. Ed will send them to you on me. You're welcome. edsfineimports.com. Gitch is the name of the brand. Luxury boxer briefs, pouch in the front. You will love them. You will never buy another pair of underwear anywhere again. I can guarantee that. I can legitimately guarantee it. And when you use promo code GITCH3, he'll send you a new pair for free. edsfineimports.com. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for spending some time educating yourself and having a quick conversation with us. We will see you tomorrow. Don't forget to rate, subscribe. Anywhere you get your fine podcast, YouTube, go to crier.co, which is where you can find all of us, including my very dear friend Charles Adler, his podcast, which is banger. Go and check it out today. But go to crier.co. Check out 140 of our podcasts. You can check out what we do every single day and consume what you want to consume on demand. Crier.co. YouTube, Dean Blundell Show, Crier Media on YouTube as well. Rate, subscribe, say something nice. It goes a long way for us as well. Have a great day, everybody. See you tomorrow.